The morning rush had already begun when Ethan Parker tightened his tie with shaking hands. He had waited weeks for this interview, a management position that could change everything for him and his little daughter Mia. After years of juggling part-time jobs and late-night shifts, this was his one real chance. The clock on the wall read 8:15. The interview was at 9 sharp. He grabbed his worn briefcase and Mia's backpack. "Come on, sweetheart, let's go." She smiled, holding his hand as they stepped. Into the crisp morning air, he dropped her off at school and promised, "I'll pick you up after my big day, okay?" She grinned. "You're gonna get it, Daddy, I know it." He laughed softly. "I hope so, kiddo." Then he hurried toward the subway, his heart racing with nervous hope. Halfway down the crowded street, an old woman stumbled on the curb, her groceries spilling across the sidewalk. People stepped around her. Too busy to notice, Ethan didn't think twice. He rushed over, helping her sit up. "Mom, you okay?" She nodded weakly, just dizzy. "I'll be fine," but her wrinkled hands trembled as she tried to stand. He offered gently, "Let me call someone." She shook her head. No, I just need to get home." He glanced at his watch. 8:45. If he helped her, he'd never make it to the interview, but he couldn't leave her there. His conscience wouldn't allow it. So he lifted her grocery bag and said, "Let's get you home, Mom." She smiled softly. "Your kind son. People don't stop anymore." He smiled back. Maybe they just forgot how. By the time he guided her safely to her apartment, she was still apologizing for the trouble. He brushed it off. "It's fine, Mom, I'll manage," she insisted. "At least let me give you something." He shook his head firmly. "Just promise me you'll be careful next time, all right?" She smiled warmly. "You remind me of someone I used to know." When he left, it was 9:20. The interview was over. His chance gone, he stood outside the old building, staring at the busy city around him, whispering to himself, "Guess kindness doesn't pay bills after all." Then he turned back toward the subway, unaware that the woman he'd just helped was about to change his life in a way no interview ever could. When Ethan picked Mia up from school that afternoon, he tried to smile, but his eyes gave him away. She climbed into the passenger seat, her backpack bouncing. "How'd your interview go, Daddy?" He hesitated for a moment, then said softly, "I didn't make it in time." Her smile faltered. "You didn't get the job?" He shook his head, glancing at her through the rearview mirror. "No, sweetheart, but I helped someone who really needed it, so maybe it wasn't such a bad day after all." At home, after dinner, he tucked her into bed and whispered, "Tomorrow will be better, okay?" She nodded sleepily. "You always say that, Daddy." He smiled. "That's because one day it'll be true." The next morning, Ethan's phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Mr. Parker," a calm voice said. "This is Sterling Enterprises. Our CEO would like to meet you personally today." Ethan blinked. "But I never even interviewed with your company." The voice replied, "She insists. Please be here by 10. He arrived at the massive glass building, nervous but curious. The receptionist led him through quiet halls lined with silver plaques until he entered a sunlit office where a woman sat behind a grand desk. She looked up, smiled kindly, and said, "Mr. Parker, thank you for coming. I'm Ava Sterling." He shook her hand, confused. "I don't understand. Why am I here?" Ava leaned back slightly. "Yesterday morning, my mother came home with quite the story about a kind man who missed something important just to walk her home safely." Ethan froze. "Your mother?" Ava nodded. "She described you perfectly. The one man who didn't look away when everyone else did." He blinked, stunned, realizing that the fragile old woman from yesterday was the mother of one of the most powerful women in the city. Ava's smile deepened. "You may have missed one interview, Mr. Parker, but you just earned another one. The most important one of your life." Ethan sat across from Ava, still unsure if this was a dream. Her calm voice filled the quiet office. "My mother said you carried her groceries 3 blocks and refused to take a cent. I owe you for that." He shook his head quickly. "You don't owe me anything, Mom. I just did what anyone should have done." Ava smiled sadly. "Maybe, but most people didn't." She leaned forward. "You were on your way somewhere, weren't you?" He nodded quietly. "A job interview. It was supposed to be the one that changed everything for my daughter and me." Ava studied him for a long moment. "You missed it because of my mother." He smiled faintly. I guess I did, but I'd rather miss an interview than my humanity. Ava stood and walked to the window, her voice thoughtful. My father built this company believing success should serve people, not replace compassion lately. I've forgotten that she turned back to him. So let's fix that, starting with you. I'd like you to join Sterling Enterprises as an operations manager. Ethan blinked, completely thrown. Ma'am, that's too much. She shook her head. It's exactly enough. Someone who makes the right choice even when no one's watching is the kind of person I want leading my team. He tried to speak, but words wouldn't come. Ava smiled gently. Tell me about your daughter. He softened immediately. Mia. She's 6. Curious. Funny and too smart for her age. She thinks I can fix anything. Ava laughed. Sounds like my mother talking about me. A knock interrupted them. Ava's mother stepped in, smiling warmly when she saw Ethan. There you are, young man. I told you he'd come. She turned to Ava. This one's got a good heart. Hire him. Ava grinned. Already did, her mother nodded proudly. I raised one good CEO after all. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. I don't know what to say, Ava replied simply. Say yes. He hesitated, looking between them, and then smiled. Yes, ma'am. Ava's mother patted his arm. You see, kindness always finds its way back home. A week later, Ethan walked through the doors of Sterling Enterprises again, but this time not as a desperate job seeker. He wore a crisp new suit, his name already printed on a shiny badge, Ethan Parker, Operations Manager. When he reached his office, the entire team greeted him warmly. It was the first time in years he'd felt like he truly belonged. That evening, he picked Mia up from school early, surprising her with ice cream. She squealed happily. Daddy, you got the job. He nodded, grinning. Yes, sweetheart, I did. She tilted her head proudly. I told you you would. He laughed, hugging her tight. You were right. You always are. She leaned closer, whispering, So now you don't have to worry anymore, right? He smiled softly. No, baby, I don't. Not anymore. Later that week, Ava invited him and Mia to dinner at her home. When they arrived, Mia ran straight to Ava's mother's arms. The two already close from their first meeting, Ava watched them with a quiet smile. You know, she said softly, I think fate has a funny way of rewarding the right people. Ethan smiled back. Maybe sometimes losing what you want is the only way to find what you need during dinner. Ava's mother looked at Ethan, her eyes kind. You remind me of my husband, she said. He believed in doing good, even when no one noticed. Ethan looked down, humbled. That's the only kind that matters, Mom. When he tucked Mia into bed that night, she handed him a drawing, 2 stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun, with 3 words written in uneven crayon, me and Daddy. Lucky he stared at it for a long moment, his heart full. From that day on, he never called what happened bad luck. He called it grace, because missing that interview gave him more than a job. It gave him family purpose and the proof that doing the right thing, even when no one's watching, can change everything. If this story made you smile, share it with someone who needs a reminder that accidents can turn into beautiful beginnings.